And we are live. My name is Terry Thompson. I am the host of Unbreakable Stories, along with my co-host here, Bonnie. And tonight we are going to talk about intent versus agenda. Man, like, what's the difference? But before we dive on into that, Bonnie, how's your day?
Today was very intentional, Terry.
Intentional. I
I,
love it. I love that you're intentional about your day. I love. Let's dive in.
yeah, absolutely. I love this topic, intention versus agenda. It's been on the forefront of my mind. And I'll talk a little bit about some of the interesting conversations that I had this week that kind of sparked this this debate, whatever you want to call it.
It's a debate, really?
I'm losing my words. We're live.
Oh, let's
So
argue. I tell you what, intent versus agenda. It is a debate. Let's go. So I actually did debate years ago. So share my age here just a little bit. So back in like 1989, 1990-ish, somewhere around there, I was in college at the time, and I took public speaking as a class. One of the sections within that class, and I thoroughly enjoyed that class, one of the sections within that class was debate. I loved it, except for when you had to be like the opposite of what you really didn't want to be. And it was kind of one of those things. I was like, no, I'm for it. How can I be against this thing? No, I'm against. How can I be a for? But it's one of those things that taught you how to speak. And I thought that was really cool, taught you how to research and everything. But man, so so what was some of the biggest things today? Intentional. I love it. Intentional.
so it actually started by being intentional on last Sunday, and that was last Saturday and Sunday last weekend. I was actually kind of ticked off at myself. I was kind of like in a place where I had lost a little bit of momentum, and I was really in a space of overcomplicating things and maybe making some excuses as well. I was like, I don't know how to do this, and I don't know how I should do that. And finally, I was like, this is stupid. Like, I'm sitting here, like, I need to just do something. And so broke it down, made it super simple, and I sent out 245 messages on LinkedIn intentionally to just reconnect with people and no agenda. And that's kind of where the beginning of this conversation kind of started. Was I was getting some responses back from people I guess are not accustomed to the phrase being of service and expected that I was trying to sell them something. And I was like, that's definitely not my intent. I really am just trying to have conversations with open-minded people and see where we've got some synergy. And so
Mm.
that was the beginning. But in doing that, sending all these messages, I also signed up for 10 or 12 different online networking events for this week and next week in order to meet new people. And I
Mhm.
was like, the only way to meet new people, especially when you're at home, is to reach out and meet new people. Like, they're not going to come to me, you know,
Huh.
and I really don't want them all to come to me at this
I
point.
had that happen today. So it was I'll get to that here in a bit, but it was definitely intent versus agenda, and I'll talk about that in a bit.
Yeah, and so I had quite a few people take me up on these coffee chats that I was reaching out. I was like, "Hey, I just got back on LinkedIn. I'm reconnecting with some interesting people. I'd love to have a coffee chat, see how I can be of service." The message is super simple, and I drop a link. And I did have quite a few people, and I found that although the majority of the people have not yet even answered me, um, because my intention was and is to be of service, those conversations that I had with the three people that did schedule with me this week, specifically from that outreach, were amazing conversations. Like, I did reach open-minded people, and we just had just really great conversations. And again, I'll explain later how this kind of filtered on through my week, but that's how I ended up starting on Saturday to be intentional was what set me up for today. And I had a really great day and some great networking events, met some really interesting people. Um, and so, yeah, it all started with being intentional and not having an agenda.
Mhm. So for me, I'm more of a bottom line up front kind of a guy. So I always have to set my intent for the day. If I don't set my intent for the day, my agenda really gets off track. It's one of those things to where, and I do that the night before. So I'm always planning the night before. What is my bottom line up front for the next day? What is my intent for the next day? And for those of you that have been on my Discord server, you see that I shared that, for quite some time. I stopped here recently, and and it's one of those things. I gave you a small taste of what the bottom line up front planner was all about. That's what, see, agenda. So it's kind of one of those things, because I want people to have my bottom line up front planner, and it's a part of that. It's a part of sharing that journey, being intentional about what it is that you do. But man, when you got intent versus agenda, there are some people that start off with good intentions and then they just transform into agenda. And it's one of those things that, oh my goodness, it is so off-putting. And I have to start my day with intention. And if I don't, I'll get off track. 100%. I will get off track. I'll procrastinate. I'll start doing this. I'll start doing that. I'll just run down this spider web of different things and emotions. Next thing you know, I'm in the fetal position on my bean bag, and I'm like, oh my goodness, I don't want to do nothing. I don't want to play. What about you?
Yeah, I like how you use two different versions of the word in what you just described, because I think agenda is another one of those words that it has a positive or a negative connotation. And really, when you look, for me, and I didn't look up the definition, but agenda really breaks down to expectations. So when you have an agenda for your day, you have an expectation or a schedule of what you expect your day to look like. But it's that word expect where it becomes, I think, negative when you're reaching out to people because you have specific expectations for an interaction with somebody. Now, if you guys have already, people have already predetermined, I'm going to do this, you're going to do that, then having expectation, of course, makes perfect sense. But when you're reaching out to someone and all you're trying to do is sell them or barrage them or convince them of something or whatever, and have an agenda and I'm going to make you do X, Y, Z, it's not going to pan out well in most situations. Mm-hmm. And so, yes, I have an agenda for my day. I have a schedule for my day, and I set those things with intention. And I think you and I had a conversation about this just a little bit ago, and I was telling my husband, actually, and Janine as well. I did a week of this, doing coffee chats, plus my client meetings, plus some coaching calls, plus the groups I'm in, trainings, and also these new networking events, all in, this first week. Mm-hmm. And it gave me a new perspective on how to be more intentional going forward with how I schedule these things, because I need time for follow-up. I need time blocked in just to get up and move my body. I need to be set better boundaries on my time, that 20 minutes is not 50 minutes. And so
4 hours.
Yeah. Luckily, some of these, I had other things scheduled right up, almost up against them. So I could say things like, I've got another meeting in 10 minutes. I really got to go. This was great. We can do this again if you'd like. And we can have some more time together. But I set them at 20 minutes intentionally in case there was one of those, I love what David Meltzer talks about. He does the 5-minute phone calls and 20-minute meetings. And I think 20 minutes is sufficient enough time to get to know somebody enough to know if you want to have a second date, right? If you want to have another call with this person or get involved with something they're doing, where you're not having this awkward kind of, oh God, I scheduled 50 minutes or an hour with this person and I really don't want to keep talking to them. And I still got 45 minutes left. I haven't really had that happen yet. But again, it's also about being respectful of people's time. When you're asking for an hour of somebody's time and you haven't really previously engaged with that person at all, and you're not paying them for a coaching service, that's a lot of time out of somebody's day to just sit around and, chit chat. So,
and it could go longer as well too. So, if you ask for 5 minutes, that 5 minutes could turn into 50 minutes. Who knows, especially if they enjoy the conversation. And it's one of those things that oftentimes if you immediately say, oh yeah, we're going to have an hour of your time, it's like, oh my goodness, what am I going to talk into about an hour? You immediately start catastrophizing before you even really get started. And then you start thinking about your agenda. It's like, man, I got to go here. I got to go there. I got a meeting. I got a call. I got to go get the kids. I got to cook dinner. I got to do all these different things that are going on. And then the intent is lost. It's truly lost in the mix. So it's one of those things. I love what Gary Vaynerchuk does, you know, and I remember one time I was watching this thing live, and it was, you know, it was one of those things to where someone asked him for 3 minutes of his time. Can I have 3 minutes of your time? And he immediately just goes, you're smart. I love you. You know, it's just kind of one of those things. And Gary Vaynerchuk gave the guy, I think 15 minutes or 20 minutes of his time, but the original ask, the original intent was 3. And it was kind of one of those things that ended up being a bonus because, you know, Gary enjoyed the conversation. He felt like he wasn't being taken advantage of or had some type of a hidden agenda kind of a thing. And it ended up being a great conversation.
Yeah, that's, I have gotten much, not this, I say this because I actually got off the phone with somebody. I was like, you know, I can shut up and listen, right? Like, he started laughing. I said that to make him chuckle. I was like, but I've also, and you know this, you and I have carried on 4-hour conversations, but I've learned in working with a lot of these, I'm learning not to put people on a pedestal, but at the same time, these higher caliber people who have back-to-back schedules and are constantly in and out of meetings and whatnot, I'm very, very focused and very concise and make sure that my question is straight and to the point. Like I'll say, hey, how are you? Here's my question, and go right into it. And when you're speaking to certain people, they do really appreciate and respect that you respect their time as well. And I frequently, when I text David or I text Marshall or I text some of these other people that I know, it is, may I have 2 to 3 minutes of your time? If it's something I feel like is going to take a little bit longer, I will ask for 5 minutes because I want to make sure that I'm not saying 2, but really meaning 10. And usually there's sometimes when it can be answered very quickly, and sometimes where it does turn into a longer conversation. But I let that person dictate and lead whether or not they give me more time, as long as, of course, I don't have anything else that I need to jump to. But I let that person who has the more, I don't know what's a good word for this, but the more active schedule, active agenda, like they've got more things scheduled in their day than I do, kind of dictate that when it's not going to cause, you know, a conflict on my schedule as well.
Right. So. You know, and we have a technique within the military. You know, I spent 24 years in the military, and when you send emails out, it's one of those things you have to be brief, especially when you're talking to senior military leaders. And it's one of those things that intent versus agenda really gets boiled down to what's called the bottom line up front. So when we send out an email, the first thing that literally says is bluff, BLUF, bottom line up front. I'm not kidding. It's bluff. Here's the action item that I want you to approve. And then after that, there's a little bit of context. But by then, that senior leader already knows what the decision is. They just want to kind of see that trail, so to speak, that audit trail, so to speak. But you always lead with the bottom line up front. And that bottom line up front, what is that? That's your intent. You know, what is it that you want? So it's one of those things. I had an incident today that, you know, it started off just like every other thing. And I was feeling, for lack of a better way of saying it, froggy. So I jumped at it, and I was like, you know what? I got a moment. Let me see what this is all about, because it was the typical, hey, how you doing? Hey, you know, kind of a thing. Hi, that little DM message that we all tend to get, that we know that there's a hidden agenda somewhere in there, but yet maybe they have a good heart. Maybe there's good intentions there. You know what? I'm going to take a chance on this person. And as we're chatting, it eventually got to the agenda. And I was like, have a great day. Bye. Block, unfollow, this, that, and the other. You know, it was just one of those moments. But leading all the way up to that thing that I eventually knew was going to get there anyway, because today was one of those things. I was at an event today. I blasted out, you know, stuff all over the place in those chats. So I got a lot of messages. I got a lot of, you know, follows. I got a lot of DMs. I got a lot of stuff from that today. And I accidentally followed somebody. So that one person was neatly tucked away into that group of people I thought were coming over from the event. And it was just me not paying attention. So I followed this person thinking, oh, they're from the event. Next thing you know, they're like, hey, how you doing? And I was, all the other messages, and I should have known something was up because all the other messages was like, hey, I saw you at the event today. You was with Evan, you were here. We saw you with, the so-and-so, and we'd love to, whatever the case may be. And I shot out my calendar to every one of those people, except for that one person that said, hey, how you doing? I held off a little bit. I held off for a little bit, and it was one of those things to where as we was going, it's like, where are you from? How do you doing? What do you like to eat? And I was like, oh my God, here we go. So I was like,
do you want to mine Bitcoin and trade Forex with me?
It got there. No, trust me, it got there. That was the end result. And it was one of those things to where it was like, I said, look, I've got 2 shows. I've got to get ready to go. How can I help you? Kind of a thing. And it was like, are you open to investment opportunities? And I'm like, oh God, there it is. Right. So it was that intent versus agenda that just kicked in there at the end. And I was like, okay, I'm going to give you a chance. You're followed by a couple of people that I do know on Clubhouse. So it was one of those things that when you see people that are followed by other people, or they're like in certain circles, you kind of want to give them a chance, but you're taking a chance. What do you think?
Well, considering I'm the one that's like 3 or 4 times now, like made a public service announcement to our Clubhouse room saying, if you message me the word hi or hello or hey, I'm going to click on your profile picture and then promptly probably ignore you.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't gone so far yet to block too many people because it started to actually become a hassle to have to go through every single one of them.
Mm-hmm.
But I have thousands. Well, maybe not thousands, at least 1,000 at this point, just from September, page after page after page after page of these hi, hey, and the person's got 14 followers, and it looks like they took a picture at Glamour Shots, and it's like nothing in their bio, or like they're the perfect companion for a blah blah. I'm like, oh, dear Lord, it's like I'm very careful in I'm pretty sure on all my bios still, though I may have changed it. It literally, they all said me, mom, wife, like right at the top. Like, I am not interested in dating online. Thank you very much. And on top of that, I'm not interested in getting into your Forex trading. So I don't let it bother me anymore. I did it first. It was really off-putting. Now I'm just like, I'll literally click on the message so that the little yellow, like you've got messages dot goes away on the chat thing.
I think the request went away. So when I open up my back channel, I don't see them. I see only messages from people I'm following now. I think that might be a new update.
Maybe this was the last time I looked, was maybe yesterday or the day before.
Yeah. So this was on Instagram that I got my message on, and I was like, okay, you're followed by a couple of people. I'll give you a chance. Hey, how you doing? Hey,
yeah,
kind of a thing.
Every time you say that, have you seen the Miles Morales version of Spider-Man yet?
No.
Okay, you're gonna have to watch it, and you'll know why I want to like laugh my butt off every time. There's a scene where Miles Morales, who's the new Spider-Man, is talking to his uncle, and he's trying to teach him about girls, and he was like, just put your hand on her shoulder and go, hey. So there's like a good like 2 minutes of this kid Miles Morales trying to like, hey, like his face is all contorted. And so it's one of the favorites. My boys, especially the littlest one, loves Marvel, and he'll just walk up and just be like, hey,
here comes the smolder.
I can't.
Right. Drop your voice down 2 or 3 octaves, lift up your eyebrow, and give that.
You're gonna have to go watch it now. It's probably on YouTube. That scene's probably on YouTube now. I think the movie's like 4 years old, but yeah, exactly like that. But it's hilarious, and I can't help but smile every time I say it. Anyways, yes, I have had them on Instagram. I get more of the I give some of these people on Clubhouse a little bit of credit, though, because it does sound like they're at least trying to have a conversation, and they apparently got that advice from somebody else that's trying to teach them about DM marketing. But yeah, I mean, most of the world at this point isn't really falling for that anymore.
My favorite one is Dear. Hey, Dear. How you doing, Dear?
I don't think I had that one yet.
I get that so many times. It's one of those things that immediately I already know what their agenda is. There's no intent whatsoever. It's like if you honestly think that people communicate like that these days, and I think we even talked about that the other day in Clubhouse, where it was like, dude, my great grandmother said dear. You know, it was one of those things. But oh my goodness, yeah, there's a lot to unpack with that one, intent versus agenda. But man, you know, it's one of those things to where if you are in inner circles and you find yourself around like certain groups or certain people, whether it's Facebook pages, you know, you've paid to be a part of a group and now you're on a Facebook page or whatever the case may be. What are your thoughts on entrepreneurs trying to entrepreneur an entrepreneur? There was a lot there. With that
I think it's bedtime now, y'all. Wait, entrepreneurs, say that again.
What are your thoughts on entrepreneurs trying to entrepreneur an entrepreneur? In other words, I'm an entrepreneur, you're an entrepreneur, and I'm immediately going to hit you with buy my crap.
Oh, yeah, that's not cool.
Yeah, that's
in
happened.
fact, in all of the groups,
times.
What's interesting is the last group networking group I was in today. I almost at one point was going to hop out because I understood their intention, but it's like, I didn't come here to listen to you tell me the rules for 25 minutes. But I guess they were doing that for the sake for us newbies that may or may have not ever been in a networking group before. And that was part of it. Was like the guy was actually really great. He was animated. He reminded me a little bit of you because he was very animated and he had like a radio voice. Like, yeah, somebody actually asked him if he ever like worked at an amusement park or something. Anyways,
yes, ladies and gentlemen, I did work at a radio station many years ago, about 30 years ago, and I'm a voiceover actor as well too.
Yeah. You guys would make a great comedy movie. That's for sure.
Yeah.
He was talking. He was like, "Hey, anybody who here came here today just to buy something? Raise your hand." And then like waited like dramatic pause, you know. And he was like, no, not you. Yes, exactly. We did not all come here to Saturday. He's like, so it was just great. But the point he was making is like, you don't come into these groups, at least you shouldn't. I use the word shouldn't loosely, but whatever. You shouldn't, that's not the intention. It really is to meet people. It should be anyways, to meet people, to network. And hope that you make connections strong enough that you're good enough at relationship building that whatever it is that you're selling or whatever service that you're offering, that person eventually down the road may refer somebody to you, but you're not coming in there to market to these individual people. And I think a lot of people make that mistake that they're like, I'm going to go into this group and this group and this group, and I'm going to get them all to buy my stuff. And it's like, no, like I left my checkbook at home. Thank you very much. And yes, I'm at home, but that's beside the point.
Yeah. So say I'm here to learn from David Meltzer. I'm here to learn from Evan Carmichael. I'm here to learn from Kim Garst. I'm here to learn from. So I'm a part of many inner circles. Billie Jean is marketing. I mean, I could go down the line and tell you all the inner circles that I'm a part of that I've bought my way into. And it's one of those things to where the only person that I've ever known that could be able to just throw out an ad that says, buy my stuff, was Billie Jean is marketing. And he literally does that. He could literally throw out like, just a white background that just says, buy my stuff.
I think that was his campaign when I first met him. I'm not even kidding you. When I first encountered him like 4 years ago, I think he was running an ad campaign that was basically buy my SHIT. That was it. Yeah. He's like, did that get your attention?
There is no hidden agenda with that. And he's intentional about what it is that he's trying to get you to do. It's one of those things that, and he's been one of the only people that I've ever seen that literally did that and got away with it and, made $1 million in 1 month doing so. So it was awesome to watch. And I have all of his training and he breaks down that entire process of how and why he did all that. And it was entertaining, and that's a part of that as well too, is when you bring that entertainment level to the, entertainment level to the table, it, that resonates. And I love what you said a minute ago, because it reminds me of building natural relationships. And when things naturally flow, yeah, someone may buy from you. That intentional action eventually happens over time because, well, they connect with you as a human, connect with you as, as a person, as a personality, so to speak. And, and not everybody is for everybody. Believe me when I tell you that there's people that I've connected with that, we tried and it eventually was just like, dude, bye. Like, I'm sorry, we're not like, and I don't like using the word fit. I hate that word. I don't like the word fit, but there was a few people that were just not the right fit. And, whether you got intent or agenda or whatever the case may be, there's a couple of goodbyes that I had to say that, yeah, I didn't really want to, but it was one of those things that it was the right thing to do. But here's what I like. Here's what I like about Evan's community. And it's one of those things that it's a natural community. Everybody connects. It's encouraged. We all connect with each other. We all support each other. It's one of those things that has also led to natural relationships and natural people. So I've got people that have bought into my training programs. I've got people that bought books from me. It happened naturally, but it's a process. It's not just hit them in the face with, your agenda. You have to build that relationship. You have to build that know, like, and trust factor. And that takes intentional effort.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, Here's what I did this weekend when I was having my little hissy fit at myself. I was like, so my Instagram account, I grew back in 2018 from 0 to like 6,000 people in maybe 12 or 18 months. Mm-hmm. And without like a marketing plan, without any real knowledge of Instagram, like it was just me meeting people. And here's me sitting here this weekend going, I need to meet new people. How do I meet new people? And it's like, you've done this before. This isn't new. Remove whatever it is that you think you need right now out of the question. It's like, and so I took it back to very basic concepts. And like back when we were little kids, like two little girls walk up to each other on the playground and say, hey, I like your dress. Hey, I like your bow. Let's go play. Like there was hey, you want to buy my program? Hey, you want to I'll pay me $5. You can ride on my tricycle. Like this is not what was happening, like we just very genuinely just wanted somebody to hang out with.
Must have been a fantastic tricycle, I can tell you that.
Right. But it was, so I went back to basics, and that's what landed me on just reach out to people and ask them if they want to have virtual coffee with you. And it doesn't have to be complicated when you don't have an agenda. When you have an agenda and you're trying to sell everybody your stuff, you need the marketing, you need the sales, you need the fancy funnel. Like there's all this other stuff that goes into that. But so when you're really trying to build relationships, you literally just have to show up and have a conversation and be open to listening to the other person and finding out what it is that they need, what they're working on. Or maybe they don't need anything at all. Maybe they just want to have a chat. That's cool too. But yeah, going back to your entrepreneurs, or whatever you said, I do, unfortunately, I did see that from people in the same industry as me. And this isn't like a brag in any way. I'm very fortunate that I've had these opportunities with you to do all of the speaking that we do together. And we're not getting up on a stage, but we get to have these conversations live. And that's a skill that you get to learn and kind of hone. And same with Clubhouse. I was a mess on Clubhouse. There's still days where I'm a mess when I come on Clubhouse. It's like, oh, well, like, it is.
So am I. I got to fix my hair, man.
No, I just mean like trying to speak like actual words. Sometimes the concept is not working for me.
It's an effort. No, it's an effort. I get it.
Well, that's like all of these networking groups are run differently. And some are like, you can say this and this, but you can't say this. And here's my brain going, okay, 6 or 8 months ago, I would have been like, F this, I'm out of here. Or I'm going to pretend like my mic doesn't work or something, because it was too much. Like I didn't have the practice. And I found that like, I'm super grateful that I've gotten to have all of this practice and do lives with people where now most of the fear is taken out of that. There was a little bit today because it was a whole new group of people and my stomach was kind of like, jumping around, like make sure I get it right. But what I noticed was how much difference A, not having an agenda, and B, having all this practice really made, because there were several people I was running into and I could tell they were in the same industry as me. I understood the beat around the bush conversations that they were trying to have.
Mhm.
And I was like, bro, that's not going to work. Like, they literally warn us about this stuff when, you know, our higher ups and our trainers are teaching us, like, this is not what you want to be saying. That's not.
Mhm.
But unfortunately, they just haven't yet been taught or learned, or maybe, you know, they don't get trained in that. And it created a divide, unfortunately, when we were put in groups and breakout rooms. It was almost like playing ball as a kid when the teams got picked, and like these guys were always kind of on the sidelines, and I felt kind of bad because they only came there, it seemed like, to sell their products to other entrepreneurs, back to your point. And it's like, that's not what this is for.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
anyway.
don't get me wrong. I've got enough stuff to where I've got things preloaded to an appropriate conversation, but it's
Right.
all about people building, you know, it's relationship build. What can you do for them? Because, and it's funny, it truly is funny. And I've been in those conversations to where I know that I have significantly much more value to offer than the person that I'm talking to, but I value that person. So it's one of those things that sometimes it's better. And I know, you know very well about this. David Meltzer talks about it all the time, and that's putting your ego to the side. And
Oh
it's
yeah.
one of those things when you have to be able to put your ego to the side to understand that if you're here to serve, you need to be intentional within that instead of your agenda. And I had to take a back seat to that a few times because I was like, you know what? I've got this thing locked and loaded. It's ready to go. Here it comes. Oh, I need to pull that back in and I need to serve. I need to, you know, I need to make sure that I'm there for that person because it was inappropriate to go after my agenda whenever I needed to be more intentional within the moment. What are your thoughts about
Right.
that?
That's a really great point. And it's good that you were able to kind of catch yourself in those moments. There's nothing wrong with selling. Like, I don't want to demonize sell. Like, literally the whole world is built on sales and marketing. That's how, you know, commerce happens. That's how you and I get food. You know what I mean? Like, it's everywhere.
Yeah.
The problem is when your only intention is to meet somebody for the purposes. Let me back up a second. When you're reaching out to people acting as if your intention is just to, you know, sit and have a chat with them, or, you know, have a conversation, but really in the back is your agenda is to sell that person's X, Y, and Z. And it's almost like a bait and switch. And that's where I think there becomes an issue, because you're not being genuine, and the person then loses trust in you for the most part. And it I'm not going to say it makes the person untrustworthy all around, but as from a sales perspective, I think David calls that like back end selling, where it's kind of like you present as you want this, and then all of a sudden you come up and you're like, "No, I'm really here to try to sell you this $5,000 thing," and it's just disingenuous. I mean, honestly. So that's what
Awesome.
my thoughts.
Well, we have a friend backstage. I'm going to go ahead and bring Mary on up here. So she's been waiting patiently backstage to join the show. But before we bring Mary up, I just want to let everybody know I did pin the link right there within the chat. So if you're in the chat and you want to join the show, you want to join the conversation, you want to share your thoughts, your ideas, or if you want to just come on here and say hello, how you doing? Go ahead and click on that StreamYard link right there. Join the show. We'd be truly grateful to talk to you. But let's go ahead and get Mary on up here. And I see Janine just popped in. Janine, go ahead and wave if you're ready to come on in. Oh, wait, maybe I said that too soon. All right, let me get her up here. Awesome. Welcome to the show. How y'all doing?
Good. Hi, Mary. 2 nights in a row.
Hi, Janine. Hi, Unbreakable team.
Hello. Hello. Look at these smiling faces. This is amazing.
This is a real community when you're like, oh, I saw you yesterday on the internet, and now we're hanging out today on the internet.
Right?
Absolutely. It's
The
always a
interwebs
pleasure.
is one of those things that keeps us all connected. I'm telling you, what will we do without the internet?
Oh my
Exactly.
God. Yeah. I can't even imagine, especially the past 2 years.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
So Mary, what are your thoughts? Do you want to? What are your thoughts about the conversation that we've had here tonight? Do you have anything that resonates with you, or any additional thoughts or ideas?
A lot of almost all what he said resonated, and always the team always has a very great way of presenting things and examples and making it look so, because sometimes they are within their little conversations, but they are really important. And I was agreeing with Bonnie. I said everything nowadays is a transaction. So what is makes the difference is your end goal. So whether your intent or your agenda, it's always they go hand in hand. And then you have to now distinguish whether you want to use people or you want to serve people.
Yeah. I
That's a
like
great
that.
point right there. That's a truly great point. And that falls into that agenda category of using people versus, serving people. And there's a difference. There truly is a difference. And when you serve and it falls into the core value of selfless service. When you give of yourself selflessly instead of selfishly, it's one of those things. But at the opposite end of that, I had somebody that asked me a question one time about putting their content out there, putting their stuff out there. I also said it would be selfish if you didn't put it out there, if you didn't try to sell that, if you didn't try to do that. So there's really two sides of that coin. What are your thoughts?
Absolutely. Like I said, it's always two sides of the coin. There's like this and this. And like somebody, it's just the same question that somebody was asking, because I was looking for this job about being a ghostwriter. And inside the website, somebody asked a question. Don't you guys feel guilty that you pay the ghostwriters to write your stories and you pay them little amounts of money and go make millions out of your best-selling books? It's like that. And the guys answered, well, if the guy wants to just be a ghostwriter and is content with that, I would not oblige him to go further and be a published author and do more than just being a ghostwriter. So I don't know, maybe it depends on what people want. Sometimes they are ignorant of what possibilities there is above that. Sometimes they don't know, or sometimes they are just content with being at that minimal level. But whatever the case, is a thin line. There's a
I
thin
love
line.
that's a great example though, about a ghostwriter, and that's a transactional based part of the business as well too. However, if you have a great relationship with your ghostwriter, it's one of those things that can be taken further. And I have a good friend of mine that hired a ghostwriter and a co-author as well too. So it was one of those things to where you had a co-author and a ghostwriter help out within a particular book. I'm not entirely too sure he actually wrote anything within this book, but he came back and reviewed it and looked at it and this, that, and the other. And now it's published under his name and the co-author. But where's the ghostwriter? It's one of those things that the ghostwriter really didn't get any cover recognition, but maybe some first page recognition. I'm not sure. I'd have to look at the first page and see what happened with that. But if you build a great relationship and you are successful with people, you will come back and give. It's one of those things and I've done that. I'd be like, okay, thank you, for being a part of this journey. You helped me get to where I am. You don't ever want to forget who helped you get to where you are. And it's one of those things that if you really that ego based within what it is that you do, I don't know, maybe you shouldn't be where you are. I don't know. Maybe there's something to unpack with that.
Absolutely. They say there are some very simple words that are very important. Thank you, please. And those are very simple words, but that go a long way to show the kind of person that you are. And gratitude is not like you have to give somebody everything. Just tell the person thank you. Even if the person is paid, even if you paid the person to do what they did, I think a little thank you would not really matter to you. but it really goes a long way to make that person feel noticed, appreciated, and ironically, we are human beings. It makes you predisposed to serve more because you know that people recognize and appreciate what you do. So it's not only about the money, but it's also about the relationship and how you want it to be. Do you want it to be just a monetary transaction, or you want a more deep relationship with somebody with whom you can share and really mend and grow?
I love it. Great share. Any additional thoughts on what Mary had to say?
I think she's absolutely correct. I make sure that I I mean, I'm not perfect, but I try to make sure that I'm always telling people how much I appreciate them and whatever it is that they're doing, the contributions that they're making. I think that the difference when you're hiring somebody to do a specific job, that's good. I mean, that's naturally transactional. I think where the topic came up was when you're acting as if you want to build a relationship with someone genuinely, but really in the back you have an agenda of, I'm going to sell this person something specific at some point. And it's that kind of, like I said, a bait and switch. Whereas if you're hiring a person to do a job, like there's kind of the expectation that your relationship starting out is, hey, I do this product or service. Hey, I need this product or service. And you go into that relationship knowing that that's what it's based on. There's nothing hidden there. And I think that's the big part. And in agenda that makes it kind of negative is that it's typically the hidden agenda that causes the problem. But even still, when you're working with someone and you're paying them for a product or service, I also believe that,
and here's what
manners is important.
And here's what clears that up. And I'll tell you what, Bonnie, you and I experienced this in the beginning of our business relationship, and that's clarity. When you have clarity and you clearly communicate either intent or agenda, or even just things that you're doing, especially when there's a partnership, because I remember, when Bonnie and I first started out, I just was running with it. I was like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I'm going to take off. I'm going to freaking fly through the moon. And it was one of those things. And Bonnie was like, well, hold up there, tough guy. You need to reel that back in. And when were you going to talk to me about this interview or this thing or that thing or whatever the case would be? And I was like, dude, I'm making crap happen. Let's go. And it was just kind of one of those things that Bonnie truly taught me empathy within intent and agenda. And it was one of those things that I wasn't thinking about a lot of things. I was just freaking running because that's what I'm used to doing. And it was one of those things that she showed me what it was like to slow down so that we can go fast. And ever since, we've been hauling freaking butt after that. And it was just kind of one of those things that it was just that one little moment in time to where we had to clearly define intent versus agenda. And we were both on the same sheet of music. And since then, it's been a beautiful orchestra.
Yeah, I agree. I was definitely throwing an adult temper tantrum and like, I can't do this. This is not going to work.
I love it. We have a couple more. I want to turn it over to Janine here very shortly. We do have a couple more friends backstage. So I'm going to bring Joyce on and I'm going to bring Alay on. And as I'm doing that, Janine, over to you. I believe Mary might have had something to say there. So I'll shoot it back over here to Mary and then over to Janine.
No, I was just going to say that I like what you and Bonnie said. You slow down so that you can go fast. Because sometimes when you start off and you're going the wrong way, you go in the wrong way. No matter how fast you go, is the wrong way. So sometimes it's very important to slow down and then to take off on the right direction.
I love it. And, and it's that little outside perspective that I didn't see it because I was so tunnel visioned in what it was that I was doing. She had to show me that different side. She showed me that different perspective, that different thing. I was like, hey, wait a second there. I have thoughts. I have an opinion. I have feedback as well, too. And that's where learning how to listen comes into play. And it's one of those things that if you cannot put your ego to the side to be able to listen, especially within a business partnership, it's going to fail. 100%. It'll fail. And that's one of the things that I truly love about Bonnie is the things that she brings to the table is the things that I'm lacking in, the things that I need help with, the things that I'm not necessarily weak in, but I need improvement in. And that's the power of those great relationships. That's the power of those partnerships. And when you're able to bring the best of both worlds into play, you have to be able to put your ego to the side and listen from the other perspective, or it's going to be an absolute train wreck.
I just want everybody to imagine that you've got your baby in a baby stroller and you hand it to somebody to keep an eye on and help you with, and then all of a sudden they take that across the street. That's all I can think of. Running down the street with the baby carriage. That was what it felt like. Sorry, I just had a picture of that and I had to share that with you because it was funny. But that's kind of what it felt like in the moment. We got everything back on track. I have a little one that's trying to say hi, but he doesn't have a shirt on, so I'm trying to keep him at arm's length right now. Mary's over there laughing, going, "Yeah, I get it."
Is that the birthday? Is that the birthday boy or no?
No, the birthday boy wears all his clothes. So you can say hi if you put a shirt on. I'm gonna go.
I love it. We have another
quickly.
friend backstage. We have Lady Lexi backstage. So I'm going to go ahead and bring Lexi into the show here. Let me make a couple of adjustments here. Let me bring Lexi on. But before we turn things on over, I would love to turn it over to Janine. Janine, what are your thoughts about what we've been talking about tonight? What's your feedback?
It's unmute.
You're coming in broken. Oh, all right. So while Janine's doing that, here's what we'll do. We'll go ahead and turn things on over to Joyce and then Alay after that, or unless we can turn it back into Janine once she pops back into the show. So Joyce, how you doing? It's great to see you, by the way.
Hey, Terry. Oh, I'm doing great. Doing great. Just chilling here at the house tonight. And I thought I'd jump on here and say hello to everybody. So my first time on, what do we call this? StreamYard. So
Yeah.
been full of the last 3 weeks have just been me on this road of intention of just learning new things. So, and just jumping in and figuring it out as I go. So there's my intentions.
Nothing quite like jumping in with both feet first, off the high dive into the deep end, right? And we're greatly appreciative of you being here. So what are your thoughts tonight? We've been talking about intent versus agenda, and coming from an entrepreneur's perspective, someone who wants to make change within the world or make your movement happen, so to speak. Have you ever ran across any, either any issues or confusion or anything where intent and agenda just didn't match?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think that we all have an agenda of what we want to get done, but then in my mind, I always think that we have good intentions. Like I always think that I have very good intentions of, doing this or that. And that was kind of like my first thought around the word intention. But I've kind of changed that a little bit, probably in the last 10 years, and really just honing in on that word being, what are my intentions for this week? What are, I guess I kind of look at it as goals in a way, but I think we all have an overall agenda of what we want to accomplish, but I feel like intentions are, it gives you a little bit of grace, let's say. Like you can have intentions, but not be, for me, it's not to be so set in stone with that to where, in the end, you're going to give yourself a, a lashing. But, that's kind of how I've looked at it. And as far as with, entrepreneurs and some of the discussion you were talking about earlier, this is all, a beginning for me, and I'm just learning from all of you. So I always feel like my intentions have to come from within, from my heart, and my intentions are to serve. My intentions are to really just help and guide people in the best way that I can. And you know, that's, and I don't know, I guess, I don't know, is that part of my agenda or is that my intention? I guess maybe I need to like dive a little bit deeper in that myself, because, you know, my thing is I just want to, you know, be of service to people and help people. If I can just help one person today, then to me, that's the best intention for me, you know. But if I can help 10, then woohoo, you know, let's party then. So yeah, those are
I,
my thoughts.
I love it, Joyce. And the thing is that when you live within your truth, you know, it's one of those things that nobody can take that away from you. And I think that there's a lot of, you know, fake gurus out there, fake this, fake that, whatever the case may be. But when you live within your truth, when you live within your experience, when you live within your knowledge, your skills, your experience, that's truly powerful. And those things will resonate with the right person at the right time when they need it the most. And man, I'm telling you, there's so many agendas that are out there that just do not resonate with a lot of people, but yet it's like you see them force feeding it to people. And it's like, dude, no matter how much you try to get that square into that circle, it's not going to fit, man. You know, it's kind of one of those things. But Dan, Joyce, thank you very much for joining us here tonight. I see a couple of frozen screens here, so I'm not sure if I'm the only one, but I see Joyce, her screen is frozen. Janine's got a little circle going around there. So here's what I'll do. I'll go ahead and move y'all back down into the audience very quickly, and we'll turn it over to Alay. Alay, what are your thoughts?
Well, good evening to all of you. Thank you for welcoming me. I was looking at your topic, and it has several dimensions, actually. I see personally, when I have a goal and I have the intent to achieve that goal, then I set up an agenda, and it's very, very selfish, I notice. On the other hand, if you want to be part of a group, or if you're an entrepreneur, or you are part of a community, you realize that you cannot do it by yourself, and that means that you need you need the help of others, but then others need your help as well. But the only way to do that is to think about the human factor. I see it like this. So you need to talk to people so that at least you have an idea of what is the common intent for everybody. And then, so that means that you need to talk to each other so that the values are more or less not aligned necessarily, but they're going in the same direction. So values have to be similar. People need to trust each other. And when that's done, then you can build the agenda, and then that's so much stronger. So I think that's, and many of you tonight were talking about how sometimes we need to slow down to go faster. So when we had here Terry talking about Bonnie, looking at slowing down. I've learned that in the last couple of years, when you're part of a team or you're not by yourself, you really need to slow down and say, okay, tell me what I can do to help you, but tell me what I need to improve so that we can make things better. So these are my ideas on that one. So
that's a great point, by the way. When you're a part of a team, you really have to understand that people are at different levels. And sometimes you could really turn somebody away from wanting to do certain things, because we're at different levels. And it's one of those things where I've seen it. I've seen those team dynamics just get absolutely crushed whenever you get the superstar that's acting like a superstar, and they got their ego up on a pedestal, and they're just like, all about me, and me. And it's one of those things to where it totally crushes that person that's a part of the team, might not necessarily be at the level that everybody else is at, but they're struggling to get by each and every single day. And it's one of those things to where it eventually turns them away to where they don't want to take any action at all. And next thing you know, you may be missing out on some good knowledge, some good skills, some good help because of that egotistical superstar, so to speak. And that's what comes to mind with that. Any additional thoughts on that?
Well, I'd like to say that sometimes it's important to be have the same vibes on where you want to go, because otherwise you may think that you're doing the best thing for someone or a group, and then you may be way off. If you want to serve, and someone mentioned service earlier, and I forget who it was, but if you want to serve others or be there for service, you really need to talk to see what is the intent for everybody, so that you can go in and achieve what you want to have. So thank you very much.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely welcome. And coming from a teacher's perspective, you have an agenda, but there's a different level to that agenda right there. So, it's kind of one of those things. I had to make a joke. I had to make the teacher joke about, the teacher's agenda kind of a thing. But
Well,
how do you stay on? Here's what I want to know, because you teach students that are at different levels, but you have to stay on your agenda. You have to stay on track. How do you approach that dynamic of different learning levels from your agenda to different learning levels?
well, that has been my growth in the last couple of years. Because when I first started teaching, I had in mind, well, I'm the expert, therefore you come in my class, you sit, you listen, you do what I tell you, then you absorb the information, then when it's done, you get out. So that was when I started. But then I realized that when you start talking to students, then you get to know them for who they are as an individual, and then you can realize, okay, so what are your interests and what are your goals within the class here? Because as you're right, different people have different perspective, different ways of doing things. So for example, if you take a science class, for example, people may be at different levels, but then if you talk to them, you realize that there's some people that love science. They want a book, they want to read, answer questions, that's all they want to do. But there's other people, what they want to do, they want to do labs. Give me the equipment, I'll figure it out, and I'll learn that way. So when you realize that they might be at different levels, but it's mostly that they learn in different ways. And that's when you realize that you can help everybody that way. So in which case you are there to serve them, to learn, and not them trying to fit the system. But then that's a whole philosophical question about how the education system is. But so that is another conversation.
I love that. And you're right. Different people learn different things differently. Some people are visual learners, auditory learners. Some people like to read. Some people like to read while they got the audio playing, read while they got the video playing, that duality, so to speak, within learning. And I think that's the leader's job. You as the leader have to fully understand your audience and who you're working with, what their level of knowledge, skills, and experience is, and then work towards those strengths. Because I see too many times people are trying to work towards a weakness, and I get that. You want to make sure that you're developing those weaknesses, but you don't want to focus on that weakness. You want to bring those strengths up. And I just think that we got it a little bit backwards when we focus on weaknesses. Now, don't get me wrong. I think that we should clearly identify those weaknesses or things that need improvement. But I truly believe that languaging is really important. And that's where intent versus agenda can really get screwed up if your languaging is off. What are your thoughts on that?
I think you're right, because if you think of your skills, it's impossible to be perfect at everything. So learning what your strengths are, then you can move forward. And knowing what your weaknesses are, it allows you to decide either you don't want to go there, or you end up hiring people that are better than you in those aspects. So if you want to go into business, that's when you end up having to be with a team, have the intent of growing, then have the agenda. And in which case, that's how the team and the vision gets together. You are not trying to solve all your weaknesses. You want to get everybody's talent and strengths to move forward. So I think that's the best intent that way.
I love that. So Alay, you had a very great question that I have pinned to the screen right here about being goal-oriented with intent and being people-oriented with intent. And I truly believe that there's a little bit to unpack within both of those, because being goal-oriented and being people-oriented are really two different things. But if you have goals, people are going to be involved in that, because if you have a passion, okay, it comes down to the who, what, and why. And we've all read about that within Evan's book. Okay. And it's one of those things to where if you do have goals, you have dreams, you have intent or intentions, you really have to be people oriented and intentional with those people. You can't have an agenda with them. You really have to be intentional with your communications, with your actions. Where do they fit in? What are their strengths? What are their weaknesses? And then when you get the right people in the right positions, I think that you will be able to achieve those goals. And that's how you stay goal and people oriented at the same time.
Yeah, and I've learned so much from Bonnie just in the idea of being people oriented that way, I would say. So that's why I enjoyed coming and joining you. in the discussion.
Yeah. Any additional thoughts? Anybody else have any feedback on Alay's question?
I
All right.
loved it. Oh,
Okay,
sorry, delay. I was just gonna say I loved that it was thought provoking for me. It was just even reading it. I've read it several times now, and I think that the being goal. I mean, you can't be goal oriented without some sort of intent or intention, right? Like that. It's literally impossible. You have to have an intention if you're setting goals. I'm trying to even separate the two thoughts in my mind, and I think it's probably impossible. But being people oriented with intent, I think that for me, especially over the past week, I set my quote unquote expectations very low. Like I didn't have any specific expectations of these people, except that I wanted to meet open-minded people. And so with that in mind, my intention was to meet open-minded people and to hopefully, create some new relationships and start building out my network. And for me, building out my network has more to do with, I really love connecting people. Like, so being in a group and being like, oh, okay, so I know this person does this and I know you need this thing. I think you two, kind of how Evan did for me and Terry. And I got to a point where I wasn't really meeting, like I'm in a bunch of different groups and I love what I'm doing within each of these groups, but I wasn't really meeting anybody new on a regular basis. And so it was like I had already kind of made the connections that I was going to make. And I really just was at a point where I wanted to just, see who else is out there. There's almost 8 billion people on the planet. And I love all you guys, but being at home and like, yeah, I spent a lot of time in these 4 walls right here. And it was like, it'd be really great just to reach out and meet some new people. And since I'm not going anywhere, I can't have like random, what do they call that? Like synchronistic run-ins with people outside of my house because I'm not going anywhere. And so I had to be intentional about having these kind of synchronistic meetups by, requesting that, see if people wanted to have virtual coffee. So that was a little ramblish, but hopefully that made some sense and is how I would answer that question, but more succinctly next time, hopefully.
I love it. Alay, does that answer your question?
Yes, I had some thoughts. I wanted to know your perspective because I do trust your perspective and also hear from Mary and her perspective on that, and Lady Lexi. It's interesting to see because you have a thought, but until you have people discuss about it, then you don't always understand the depth of what is involved. And I'm here to learn. So thank you very much, Bonnie.
Awesome. Mary, what are your thoughts?
When I read the question, goal-oriented with intent or people-oriented with intent, whatever the case, whether they are goals or people, for me, there must be an intention. And that's why we say if you have to surround yourself with people who would help you grow instead of people who will bring you down. So if you have your intentions, your goals, you have to find the people who will help you to fulfill your goals or to implement your goals. So either way, being goal oriented or people oriented, I think they go hand in hand. And like I said before, it depends now on what is your agenda and how are you going to implement, or what do you want to get from it. But whatever the case, whether goal or people, you have to have an intent.
I love it. Great answer, Mary. Lexi, what are your thoughts?
Well, a lot of things have been said about it. And actually, I was thinking like, okay, what's the goal? Is it to achieve a certain goal? Or is it about getting to meet other people and then maybe there's a common goal, and then you want to achieve it together. So those are two very different perspectives. So what Bunny said before, like, and I realized that she's not getting out of the house that much. I usually get to meet a lot of people just by sitting somewhere on my own, having a latte somewhere, or just walking somewhere. And just because I'm writing stuff down, people usually approach me and they start to talk to me. And otherwise, I would probably be doing the same thing. So when it comes to meeting people, yeah, I suppose it's for me, it's quite easy to talk to other people, especially now we can go everywhere again. But when it comes to working with people, and that's a totally different story. So I'm just going a little bit back to earlier in the show, and I was like, okay, when you start to want to work together with someone, then of course it is like, okay, so what do they want to get out of it? And it's not just about are we a good match, but it's also about do we want to achieve the same thing. So you know that I've got 2 live shows. One was oh my god, here I go again, totally blank.
Which I was there leaving messages in the chat, and you totally did not see me there.
Oh yeah. That's true. But on the Monday I've got a show with Michael, and on Wednesday I've got the one with Joe. And yes, I totally did not see your messages over there. I've been looking at, is there someone who wants to come in? But I didn't look at the messages. I don't know how I could have missed it, but I was a little bit tired.
It's all good. It was a great show, by the way.
Oh, thank you. That helps a lot, because I really felt like my energy was low. So,
but the information was high.
Well, I was able to stick to a structure, and that was nice. So going to goal oriented versus people oriented, I love doing it with someone else, because then we have the energy, and you can go back and forth. And even if it's just things in the comment section, that already helps. And that's why I'm so like, how could I have missed it? But well, it was the way it was. But the advantage of not doing it with someone is, if I want to stick to that structure, like, okay, this is what I want to talk about, this is my statement, those are the things I want to explain, and then people are leaving all these comments, and especially when they are a little bit different, so not entirely connected, it's like, okay, how do I mix it into what I'm saying? So I'm not good waiting.
Oh, that's a great point, because that's your intent versus somebody else's agenda.
Yeah.
And we always come in with our shows with intent on how we're going to approach things, and sometimes the agenda gets a little knocked off whack depending on questions. We could dive down a lot of different rabbit holes in this, that, and the other, but that's where staying on target, staying on task, staying on target, staying on intent, staying on that goal, staying oriented, so to speak. And if you're not, you're going to get completely disoriented and lose track.
Yes, absolutely. Couldn't say better. So that's the whole thing. Like, how do I redirect it again? And of course, especially when you do a live show and like this, it's going to be on YouTube. Do we want to have a lot of editing afterwards or not? Because people might say things which are totally off topic. And that makes it a little bit like, yes, I love it when people are there, but it's also very distracting at the same time. So it's, and this is the thing I learned, and that's why I started, like, I'm doing it with 2 people now. What I've learned now is it's not only if you're a match, it's also about being specific. Like, okay, so what are we talking about? What are you going to do? What am I going to do? So previously the weaknesses were mentioned, and how can we improve the weaknesses, but I was thinking more along the lines of the strong things each of us has. So what am I going to do because I'm good at it, and what are you going to do because you are good at it? And I'm one of those persons who's used to doing it all myself. So I'm slowly letting go, especially when it comes to Michael, and and that's awesome. I mean, he's the one who Yeah, I've got it on too. Look. you who asked me if I wanted to work with him. And it's nice, to go back and forth about, okay, so what are we going to discuss? And do you want to add something to it or not? And that really helps. But like the show on Wednesday with Joe, well, you've probably noticed it a couple of times. I think she's been around, well, she hasn't been around more than she has been around. And that's, when I hear last minute that people can do it or a day before, actually that already drains my energy. So and that's kind of hard to
Yeah.
recover from.
I've had that happen a couple of times, and we all go into certain things with good intentions. And unfortunately, certain things do tend to happen. And I get that. But man, when things start happening more than once, that's a habit. That becomes a habit at that point. That's no longer like good intentions. That's no longer hidden agendas. That's a habit. It truly
Yeah,
is.
I like to look at the good side, and that
Mhm.
people do it for a good reason. But
Yeah.
yeah, at some point I'm also like, okay, are we going to continue on or are we not? And there are always good topics because we especially Joe and I, we talk a lot outside of the show. So there's so much inspiration. But it's almost easier to say, okay, I'm better off doing it on my own. And if you want to come on, hop on and you're a guest. As to, okay, I'm counting on doing it together,
Mhm.
and then it doesn't happen.
Mm. I love that. So we did have another question within the group chat here, and it was, how do you balance that feeling like you're serving versus being a show off? That's a great question, Ida, by the way, and I'm sure that everybody here has some thoughts on that. But here's kind of my take on that. When you're serving people, you will serve from a place of confidence. Okay, because I'm confident in the things that I say. I am confident in the things that I am doing. And oftentimes that's mistaken for cockiness, which makes it seem like you're being a show off. But then there's those levels of just blatant disrespect. And that's where it really starts being show off. Like, look at me, look what I am, look at me, me, and me, and me, and me. And I've actually had that happen. I was on a phone call the other day with someone, and I swear to goodness, I couldn't get a word in otherwise. The entire conversation was 99% this person talking. And Bonnie, she's had to do that to me a lot of times too. She's like, hey, I'm here, dude, bruh, reel that in, kind of a thing. And it's one of those things to where you get so wrapped up within your agenda that you forget that the original intent was to serve the other person, to be there for the other person. And oftentimes we're so focused on what we want to say, when really you should be listening before you even remotely start talking. And I think that's where, being a show off, like you're showing off your programs, you're showing off your services, your products, your books, you're this, look at what I've done. And I think that's the difference between serving and showing off. What's everybody else's thoughts?
Yeah, I was gonna say, unless you're doing like a webinar or like a commercial or an ad, I guess they're not called commercials anymore, huh? Dating myself. Ads. Because I had to think about that until you started talking. I wasn't even really comprehending what she asked, and I think that's because my brain just doesn't automatically go to look at what I've done, look at what I've done, look at what I've done. When I completed my coaching program, of course, I was showing it to a few. I was excited because it was an accomplishment to get the thing done. But I think it's really important to either just be quiet and listen, or ask questions to find out what this other person needs, instead of trying to throw a bunch of services and products at them right off the bat. Because not everybody is going to be a good match for my coaching program, for example.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm definitely not going to just throw that at people. Like there's a lot of work involved in the program that I created, and not for me creating it. I mean, for the person going through it, like they've got to do a decent amount of work. It's not something you're going to read and after 21 days, you're just going to be cured and everything's going to be happy and, you know, sunshine and rainbows. But the only way for me to know if that's going to work for someone is to either to know the person or to get to know the person. And I think that for me, at least, if you take the time to listen and then say, hey, I have this thing that might help you, versus inundating a person with, hey, I've got all these products and services, pick the one you think is going to be the best for you. Like, that's, to me, it's like a used car salesman versus like, you know, who's up in your face and trying to sell you everything on the lot, versus the smart guy that talks to you, asks you, do you have a family? Do you have a wife? Do you have children? Do you have a dog? Do you travel a lot? How much time do you spend in the car? Like really to get to know like what kind of vehicle is going to work for you best, not the one that has the highest price ticket on it. So yeah,
I love it. I love that. And you know, and Lexi, I want to turn it over to Lexi because Lexi is very inquisitive, very curious, asks a lot of questions. And it becomes one of those things to where, is it possible to take questions too far?
Oh, probably.
Probably. Okay.
I didn't expect that one. I don't know. You know, you can you can basically feel already, you know, just from the answer and what's going back and forth, like if you're pushing it or not. And that's you know, when I'm reading that question, like feeling like you're surfing versus being a show off, for me that's pretty similar. It's like you can feel that you're doing it from your heart and you're doing it as in, okay, you really want to help someone out. And if that leads to knowing a lot and, well, basically, you know, giving the other one things they didn't know before, which could be seen as a show off, well, so be it. But the intention is still like we're doing it from the heart. It's nice to serve someone and to say something and help them out. And the same applies to when it comes to questions. So I know I can be very overwhelming, especially when I'm one-on-one with people.
Yeah.
And so there, I'm
But that's important though. Asking those questions is important, you know, because you truly won't understand until you dive a little bit deeper into that, into what's happening.
Yeah, exactly. So it's so important that if I cannot ask it during a conversation, then I will get back on it. Like, okay, did I overstep? Was it not right? But on a show, for instance, when I'm not certain, I will ask like, okay, is it okay if I'm going there? Or do you want to, you know? So especially when I do not know the person, it's like, okay, I need to get to know you. So I need to ask, are you okay with it or not?
Yeah.
And referencing to what Bonnie said, and this was actually said on Brennan's show last Wednesday. He said, if I want to get people to apply, what was not, that doesn't matter. I get people to fill out an application, basically, you know, fill out a survey. And of course, when you want people to actually learn and do a lot of stuff, that's a good thing, because if they don't want to work, they probably won't want to fill out that application or that survey either. But if you just want to, you know, build a rapport, it could be way too early and way too much. So it all depends on the person and where you want to go. So,
and here's the reason why I asked that, because I truly believe that asking the right questions and being open and transparent and vulnerable leads into meeting the intent versus you pushing an agenda. Because if you understand from different levels and different perspectives, you are able to take more intentional action versus an agenda that could be the wrong thing. But that's the importance of diving in deep. And that was the reason why I wanted to ask you that question.
okay. So did I answer?
Yeah. Once again, it's perspective. I mean, there's no right or wrong answers. There's only perspective, and we all have perspective based off of our experiences. Yeah. Oh, great answer, by the way. Thank you, Lexi. All right, so we're about ready to wind this down. We've been at it for about an hour and 20 minutes here. So here's what I want to do before we close things down. I want to do a roundtable or go around the horn, so to speak, to where everybody can share their final thoughts, final ideas, concepts, anything that you want to share. So here's what we'll do. We'll go Lexi, Alay, Mary, Bonnie, myself, and then we'll all close out here and have the after party, because that's where the magic happens. But we can't stay on too long tonight. I have some other things going on here tonight, so we definitely cannot do the after party too long tonight. We have to make it a quick one tonight. But here's what we'll do. We'll turn it over to Lady Lexi. What are your final thoughts tonight?
Well, with every meeting you have, whether it's a random meeting, spontaneous, or you really want something, just always do it from the heart, and just be curious, trying to get to know the other one better, and just feel or see or watch, depending on what the method is, how they respond. And if you feel like there's some hesitation, just ask about it, and get to know one another a little bit better. And sometimes just pausing and just letting them talk also works, but just ask if you're not certain. That's what I would say.
I love it. Lexi, thank you very much for joining us here tonight. I love that shirt, by the way.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I love that shirt. It's a truly fantastic shirt. I mean that. I truly mean that. I love, oh, that's where it went. Look at that.
There's the other one.
Oh, I love that. Bonnie, you did a fantastic job with that, by the way.
Thank you. I'm gonna brag on this one a little bit. I'm allowed to do that right now. I think it did. It was a really fun project, and so I'm happy to see you enjoying it for sure. Excuse me. I had orange juice.
Okay, so over to Alay. Alay, what are your final thoughts?
And my final thoughts will go from all the people that have shared ideas. And tonight's topic is about intent, the intent of doing something and having an agenda. And I think I'm going to go one step beyond that, saying that if you live life with intent, then your confidence level will rise. So if you live life with intent, I think this is one way to be happy. On this, I will give Mary the next word.
Mary, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Ale. It's always so difficult to talk after a teacher because they know everything. So it's been a really interesting topic, and like we say, sometimes you have to learn to listen, have an open mind to learn and improve, to be a successful entrepreneur. And so whatever it takes, we know that everything is a transaction. What makes the difference is your intent, whether you want to serve or you want to be served. And I would also want to, Lady Lexi, just a minute, thinking whether you should continue with Joe or not. I don't know if you missed when Terry was talking about the way he started working with Bonnie. You talk about it, you listen to each other, you prepare, you have those preparatory sessions, and then you weigh in and see if it's serving you or if it's not serving you.
I love it, Mary. Thank you very much for sharing, by the way. And Bonnie, you got the orange juice sorted out?
I think so. I started to laugh again too, because after what Mary said, asking, and lady, I was going to say something to the effect of make sure that you attach a leash to that baby carriage. I can't. All right, no more funny stuff while I'm drinking orange juice. That was painful. Coughing all that back up. No, but I appreciate it. Super sweet. Yeah, I was thinking too, when Alay was speaking about maybe maybe if we live with intention, we don't need an agenda. And so I'm going to leave everybody with that little nugget. And yeah, I'm going to think about that some more myself.
That's a good one. I'm going to type that in the
Yeah.
chat. If we listen
We're supposed
with
to be
intent,
off an hour ago.
Sorry, if we live with intention, maybe we don't need an agenda.
You're supposed
if we live, got it. That is remarkable right there. I mean, I don't know if I can follow that one. That was a great quote, by the way, Bonnie.
Thanks. Like it's like once a year now. Like this is 2 in the last 2 years. So I'm like I'm on a roll. No, I'm kidding. I appreciate it. If I left Terry speechless, it must be good, right?
I love that. That is a truly phenomenal quote right there. I love that. If we live with intention, we won't need an agenda. And that's living within your truth. That truly is. That's living within your truth. And when you live within your truth, you don't have to worry about imposter syndrome. And that's a huge word that tends to go around quite often these days about imposter syndrome. And every time I hear somebody talk about imposter syndrome, I immediately think they're not living within their truth. And they have an agenda. Or they don't know what their agenda is. Or they don't know what their intent is. Or they're just totally lost in the sauce to where they just have absolutely no idea what is going on. But should that stop them? I don't think so. I think that maybe they have some more discovering to do. Maybe follow Lady Lexi's advice and dig a little bit deeper, ask better questions. You know, there's a little drill called 7 layers deep. And when you go 7 layers deep and you understand why, and you ask yourself, why is this important? Why am I doing this? Why does this matter? You will truly understand who you are, who you're meant to serve, but more importantly, why. And people just do not dive that deep. People are so surface level, so skin deep that they do not understand what the possibilities are, what the opportunities are. And it's one of those things that you're not living with intention. So therefore you do not have an agenda. And I truly believe that when you're willing to be vulnerable with yourself, when you're willing to be open with yourself, you will live within your truth. But are you willing to dive deep enough to discover what that truth actually is? Because I truly believe that some people are confused as to what their truth really is because they're following. And there's opportunity every single day to lead. To absolutely lead. The world needs leadership right now, not likership. You know, at the end of the day, I'm a fairly likable person, but I don't care if you like me or not. I'm just being truthful. I'm going to do what it is that I do, and you can call that my agenda, but there's intention behind what it is that I'm doing. And I cannot transform you if you're not willing to listen, if you're not willing to learn, if you're not willing to transform. You know, I discovered a long time ago that people will often judge you from a place of their weakness when they do not understand your strength. And it is from your strength that you show up every single day. You show up so you can show out. You speak up so that you can speak out. And I love that. Lexi, you do that so well. You show up and you show out. You speak up, you speak out. And I'm truly grateful for everything that you're doing. Alay, brother, man, you have such an eloquent way with words. I love it when you show up because I often feel like I'm being sharpened. I often feel like you're giving me a little bit of that wisdom, a little bit of that teacher's edge that I just don't have. And I'm able to see things from a different perspective. Mary, when you show up, I love it because you are so knowledgeable. You are so filled with wisdom, and these proverbs that you share are truly transformational. And that's why I have no hair. So, but I love it. You know, it's one of those things that when you surround yourself with great people, you too will be great. You know, and that's what I'm grateful for. I'm grateful for each and every one of you for being here. I'm grateful for you showing up and showing out. And Bonnie, my final words, my final thought here before we bring up the printable here very shortly. I just wanted to give that little heads up call to action kind of a thing. Bonnie, I remember when you and I first met, and it's one of those things that we really didn't know where we were going or what we were doing. And it's been a magical ride along the way. I'm telling you, we've been at it for gosh, quite a while now, at least 8 months, I want to say now. And it's been one hell of a ride, I can tell you that. And even though in the beginning we didn't really have we had some intent, but we didn't have an agenda, but we didn't know what was going to happen. So it's like what I call building the airplane while in flight. And that's exactly what we've been doing each and every day. We've been building an airplane while it's in flight. And that thing took off fast as crap. It truly did. When we got on our first call, it was one of those things that I don't know what this is, but it needs to happen. The world needs to know that you are unbreakable. We are unbreakable. Everybody is unbreakable. You know, we live in a broken world these days. We truly do. We live in a broken world where a lot of people are broken and they're looking for help. They're looking for people just like each and every one of you that are up on this stage that have shared your thoughts and your ideas. They're looking for you. They want you. They need you. And it's one of those things to where if we don't show up, we don't show out, those people will never know who we are. And you may have exactly what it takes to help that person. You know, it's each one reach one, each one teach one. And from there, it's that law of attraction. That law of attraction just extends beyond what started off as a simple intention, a simple thing. And all it takes is one idea, one thought, but more importantly, one action. And you must take intentional action each and every day to do the things that you do. And I just want to say thank you very much to each and every one of you for taking action. I just want to say I love each and every one of you. You're truly unbreakable. I'm bring Joyce back in, by the way. I just want to say each and every one of you are truly unbreakable. And I am grateful to have each and every one of you within my circle. So here's what I want everybody to do. I want you to show up your unbreakable printout right here. And here's how everybody can get that. So right here is the I Am Unbreakable printout that the lovely Miss Bonnie created right here. And it shows the world that you are unbreakable. It says, I am unbreakable, hashtag my unbreakable story. Right there at the banner below, you will see the link on how you can get involved with us as well too. So if you want to share with the world that you too are unbreakable, all you have to do is go to our website, which is unbreakablestories.com/share. And you have to print out this little thing right here. And don't worry, if you don't have a printer, don't worry. You can put it on your phone, your tablet. You can put it on your Mac, your PC, or if you have a TV like I do right here in front of me, right in front of you guys should see this thing. It's a 43-inch 4K TV screen monitor that I am staring at. Like you guys are huge right here in front of me. And because I love standing up, I have a stand-up desk and man, I got a 27-inch right here. I got a 43-inch right there. So it's like, whoa, kind of a thing. So if that works for you, that's exactly what I want you to do. I want you to print this bad boy out, or I want you to download it somehow, some way. Take a picture of yourself with it and tag us at Unbreakable Stories. You'll see all the details right there on that webpage, and use the hashtag #MyUnbreakableStory. We will see that. We'll have visibility of it. And here's what we'll do. We will grab those images. We will share that on our website across all of our social media, and it's free visibility for you. So if you're an author, if you're an entrepreneur, if you're someone that's just looking for some additional visibility, we share that. We are promoting the mess out of all of our stuff here, and that can help you. We will share your link, your social media, and that's free visibility for you. That's free marketing, free advertising for you on us here at Unbreakable Stories. And that's one way that we give back for you giving. So here's what I want. I need some help with this one right here as I'm talking. Can someone take a screenshot of this and send it to me? So I'm going to hold this. Everybody hold up your Unbreakable printouts right here. Somebody take a screenshot of that real quickly. And let's get a screenshot. So I'm going to get my mug back in there. Awesome. So we got some screenshots of that. You can send that to me over on Instagram. And man, I would love to share that out as well too. So I couldn't hit print on here, so I couldn't do it myself here, but I greatly appreciate that. We're going to share that with the world. And man, we got another friend here backstage as well too. I'm going to bring him in, Peter. and bring him up here on stage, unless you don't want me to, unless you're here for the after party, but I'll bring him up here. And so we got Peter. He's up here.
Hello.
He's truly unbreakable as well too. So Peter, you got your deal ready here as well too. We got to get a picture with Peter in here.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and snap another picture right here. Let's get Peter in here. All right, I seen the thumbs up from Bonnie. I seen she did a screenshot for me. Thank you very much, Bonnie. Peter, thank you for joining us here tonight. And we're about ready to get into the after party, so hopefully you'll hang around with that. So here's what we'll do. We'll end the stream here very shortly, and don't go nowhere, because the after party is going to happen here very quickly. And that's where all the magic happens. That's where we dive deep into the conversations that people don't know about. Anyway, no, it's truly a great conversation. We cut up, we have some fun in the after party as well too. But I just want to say thank you very much. Before we go, Peter, do you have any final thoughts here as you joined us on anything that we've talked about, or do you want to share anything before we go?
Yeah, I just agree that just all you all sharing, and of course we need to have a good intention to serve the people in the world. Like Evan always say that we need to build to serve. Thank you.
I love it, Peter. Thank you very much for being here. I love it when you join us over on Clubhouse. I know you're there each and every day. You're showing up, man. You're sharing those little golden nuggets as well too. You're so brief, so succinct, but I love that. That's what I love about you, is that you have a clearly defined message. You already know what you want to say. There's that intent, and there's really no agenda. It's feedback, it's support. And I think when you're surrounded by a magical support group like everybody that we have right here, that right there, you can't beat that. And that's what makes it family. And I'm truly grateful for each and every one of you to call you our unbreakable family. Thank you very much for listening here tonight. Truly means a lot. Until then, we will see you in the next episode.